Okay, we're back again. This is, just like life and death, this is the end. We have the last 4 chapters to cover, and then we will have completed all 43 pages of the orally transmitted teachings. We've been trying to do this in 30-minute segments to make it easier for people to digest. This I'm going to finish regardless of if it's 20 minutes or it's 40 minutes, I'm going to finish today. And, like I said, I'm not going to do this forever, so I hope you've all appreciated all the videos that have been made, and I hope that you'll share them with other people, and I hope you go back and you watch them again and again, and you really get something out of this, and you deepen your understanding of the Daishonen's teachings to the point that you can also teach people. You can become a teacher of the law. That should be, I hope, for those of you that are capable, I hope it's a very sincere desire. And for those of you that have only come in and out and in and out and in and out, the inconsistency of your presence will not sustain you through the balance of your life. At some point in time, you're going to have to get serious about knowing this and chanting every day and bringing forth the eternally endowed 3 bodies of which you've had from the very beginning of time, from beginningless time. So I'll stop preaching that and start preaching from the record of the orally transmitted teachings. All chapters are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, page 239, the last 4 chapters, starting with chapter 25, the universal gateway of the Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world's sounds. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says this chapter is one of profound secrecy. Now, the profound meaning of the words, I'll just keep reading. It's one of profound secrecy. In other words, the depth and the true aspect of the Perceiver of the World Sounds chapter, or the Perceiver of the World Sounds Sutra, is not understood on the basis that it actually exists within the karmic reality of life. Okay? It preceded the Daishonen's teachings, obviously. So I'll start here again. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says this chapter is one of profound secrecy. It is a chapter that deals with the averting of disaster and prolonging of one's lifespan. It is called the king among pivotal sutras. For this reason, it is customary to assert with regard to this chapter that though one may carry on the teachings, and that through it, one may carry on the teachings of the highest stage of enlightenment. Now, it's the latter day of the law, so through it, you would carry on the teachings of the Daishonin and Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. The great teacher Tentai, in addition to his 3 major works, also produced the profound meaning of the Perceiver of the World Sounds chapter. And the great teacher Chang'an likewise wrote a commentary in 2 volumes on the same chapter. It is indeed a chapter of great secrecy, because this was the insight of Tentai and recorded by Chang'an, demonstrated by Chang'an in his own practice as being valid, and you should understand that. But of course, those are 2 people from the middle day of the law. This is the latter day of the law. But understand that this teaching, this chapter of the Lotus Sutra, just as the words Gen and Moku are 2 different names for the same thing, the I, so the words, the Perceiver of the World Sounds chapter, also known as the Perceiver of the World Sounds Sutra, and the Lotus Sutra, are 2 names for the same thing. That is, the I of the Perceiver of the World Sounds chapter represents the essence of the Lotus Sutra. The I represents the essence of the Lotus Sutra. The essence is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So in the plain text, the Perceiver of the World Sounds chapter, the 25th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, or if you ever perceive it, or if you ever have come across it as a separate sutra. The I of this chapter is that represents the essence of the Lotus Sutra. The essence is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. There's no distinction between the two, so long as you perceive and understand that both are governed by the supreme great pure law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay? Dharani. The record, chapter 26, the record of the orally transmitted teaching says this, in this chapter, the two sages, the Bodhisattva medicine king and brave donor, the two heavenly kings, Vashravana and upholder of the nation, and the 10 demon daughters pronounce Dharanis and say, and say that they will shield and guard those who uphold the sutra. Now, these Dharanis are, again, incantations of sorts. They are statements that you would say in a circumstance of threat or desire for things that would allow you to manifest and bring forth the protection of perceiver of the world sounds, of medicine king and brave donor, and the two heavenly kings, Vashravana and holder of the nation, and the 10 demon daughters. So it says they will shield and guard those who uphold the Lotus Sutra. Now, in the latter day of the law, we get the exact same benefit by chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to the Gohonzon without having to refer to an ancient text that was really upheld. It's really a provisional teaching, frankly. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the teaching for the latter day. Everything else, it's the only true teaching, actually. Okay? It contains the great pure law. So it says, in effect, we may say that since these true words or mantras are Dharanis of the wonderful law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, then the words and utterances of the beings of the 10 worlds are all Dharanis. Okay, so all of your prayers and thoughts you're directed to the Gohonzon for the sake of yourself and others all have the same function in terms of an empowerment of protection. Thus, the great teacher Dingyo stated, these true words of the wonderful law are not revealed in any of the other sutras, and they aren't. And the constant protection afforded by Bodhisattva Universal Worthy is not described in any of the other sutras, and it's not. The outstanding principles of the Lotus Sutra is where that comes from. That's Dingyo. The Dharanis represent a function or activity. They represent a function or activity of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. And in the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo, the utterance of the Dharani originates from, in the first chapter, Myo, or wonderful. Okay, that's chapter 26. Going on to chapter 27. What is the concept that we're discussing here in relationship to the 28 chapters that I've shown in is reinforcing the fact that all 28 chapters of the Lotus Sutra spoken by Shakyamuni and recorded by his disciples and passed down through a period of over 1,000 years before it got to Tentai, and Tentai dissecting it into the truth of the middle way. It was the true aspect of all phenomena, was the only way that they referred to this law. They didn't describe this law in any other way other than its function. Okay? So, once again, what that Daishonin is doing right now, and has been for these last 25 chapters that I've already read, is to qualify that they're all Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. They're not separate. There's no separation between them. It's the age. In the age of the latter day, this is a provisional teaching now because it was meant for the people of the former and the middle day of the law. We are not people of the former and the middle of the day of the law if you're listening to this video in the 21st century. So the point is that for you to understand the depth of what each one of these chapters was conveying, and to qualify it in your own mind and understanding as being nothing more than Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, the essential essence of all things. And when you're chanting Daimoku, not to think about the Lotus Sutra as some additional gateway for you to achieve clarity. You know, the clarity is to understand that these provisional teachings now in the latter day, even the Lotus Sutra, all actually are provisional expressions of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay, so all 28 chapters are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. That's what this is all about. This is the final aspect of the orally transmitted teachings that I need to convey to you. All right, that was chapter 26. This chapter 27 is the former affairs of King Wonderful Adornment. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, in this chapter, the two sons, through their teaching and converting, are able to persuade their father, King Wonderful Adornment, to abandon his false views, to adopt and hold on to correct views, and thus to become a Buddha named Sal Tree King. The title, Sal Tree King, derives from Sanskrit, and here indicates a brightly burning light. It means that all living beings are, every one of them, beings who are born and come forth from this brightly burning light. So whereas provisionally it talks about a parable, not a parable, but a story of two sons saving their father, and their father ultimately not only embraces their understanding and teaching, but also goes forward and becomes a Buddha himself. That's exactly the same occurrence with us in reading this and then utilizing the teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to reveal our Buddhahood in our present form. The entire purpose of the Daishonen's teaching is for you to attain Buddhahood in your present form, not to just receive some solace or some perception that helps you carry through the 9 worlds. It's to carry you through to the 10th world and make you manifest it as your not just original state of life, but as your persistent and primary state of life. All right, so the title Sal Tree King derives from Sanskrit, and here indicates a brightly burning light. It means that all living beings are, every one of them, beings who are born and come forth from this brightly burning light. That brightly burning light is the original state. Therefore, it is the father of all the beings of the 10 worlds. Okay? In terms of the meaning of the Lotus Sutra, this brightly burning light represents the wisdom of the Buddha of limitless joy. Now, all of us that attain Buddhahood in the latter day of the law as disciples of Nichiren chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to the Gohonzon are all the Buddhas, the Buddha of limitless joy. We all become Buddhas of limitless joy. The reason I don't use it as a plural is that in reality, outside of our own minds and body, there is no Buddha. Okay? So all of the individuals that become Buddha then are referred to as the Buddhas. Okay? We are all Buddhas of limitless joy. We all devote our lives without begrudging our life for the sake of the propagation of the law in the latter day in order to try to achieve widespread propagation, pacification of the land through the propagation of the law. That's Kosen Rufu. The terms of the meaning of the Lotus Sutra, in terms of the meaning of the Lotus Sutra, this brightly burning light represents the wisdom of the Buddha. That's the enlightenment that's Buddha, the state of life of Buddhahood, the wisdom of the Dharma realm. Okay, it's Dharma realm wisdom, not reward mind wisdom. Okay, because that's what makes us a Buddha, and that's the only way we can be the Buddha of limitless joy, which means we're prepared to sacrifice anything in order to propagate the teaching to others. That's our primary function and goal in life. This is what the sutra refers to when it says a fire suddenly broke out on all sides. It's a part of that story of the two brothers and the father. Spreading through the rooms of the house. That's a quote from Simile and Parable. When the fire of a single mind of earthly desires breaks out, when the fire of a single mind of earthly desires, that's a common mortal, okay, breaks out Breaks out means it transcends those lower 6 worlds and enters the 4 noble worlds of voice, hear, cause, awaken, one, bodhisattva, and Buddhahood. It burns the house in which delusion and enlightenment are viewed as non-dual. Okay, they're viewed as 2 different things. It burns the house of that distinction of thinking that Buddhahood is a different thing than my life in the 9 worlds. Okay, all right. This results in what is known as a false or mistaken view, to view these things as non-dual. This is very tricky. Listen to this carefully. But then the wisdom of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, illuminates the situation, revealing that this false view is a false view that is none other than a correct view. And what he's saying there, this view would perceive that your life as a common in the 9 worlds is non-dual with the life of Buddhahood within you. All right. This results in what is known as a false or mistaken view. They are not non-dual. They are one thing. He says, but when the wisdom of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo illuminates the situation, the wisdom to know that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is in all the worlds, not just in the upper worlds. Okay. The people that don't chant have Buddha nature just like the people that do chant, revealing that this false view of non-dualism is a false view that is none other than a correct view. Because the truth is that everything has that Buddha nature. The 6 paths, or the lower 6 realms of existence, okay, the endless loop before you can escape it to get on the path to attaining Buddhahood in your present form, hearing the name and the words of the truth, are the Father. Because most of us were born from that kind of a circumstance, were we not? Very few of us were actually born into the teaching and understanding the correct perspective of the Gohonzon. And even many that don't actually sustain that after they get out of the household of the parents that profess that to them. The 6 paths of the 6 lower realms of existence are the Father, while the 4 noble states are the sons. The 4 noble states represent correct views, while the 6 paths represent false views. Therefore, this means that the living beings of the 6 paths are all our fathers and mothers, because that's the beginning point from which the lotus emerges in our life, and the simultaneity of cause and effect allows us to turn the 3 poisons of greed, anger, and foolishness into the Dharma body, wisdom, and emancipation. And we become Buddhas in our present form. We reveal the eternally endowed 3 bodies of which we've never been separated from. They're our original state. They are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Chapter 28, the last chapter on page 241. The encouragements of Bodhisattva Universal Worthy. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says this chapter is a restatement of the Lotus Sutra. This last chapter is a restatement of all the preceding chapters. The profound principles expounded in both the essential, the last 14 chapters, and the theoretical teachings, the first 14 chapters, reach their highest point in this chapter, the encouragements of Bodhisattva Universal Worthy. And don't forget, at the end of this 28 chapter Lotus Sutra, then the threefold Lotus Sutra is on the meditation of the Bodhisattva Universal Worthy. What is it? Hang on. The Universal Worthy Sutra. And it says here on the point 1 of the Universal Worthy, the full title is the Sutra on how to practice meditation on the Bodhisattva Universal Worthy as spoken by the Buddha. So this is a very significant qualification that's going to be made in this last chapter, and that's why it's 2 pages long. We're not as close to the end as you think we are just because of the page number. All right, so again, let me start. This chapter is a restatement of the Lotus Sutra. The profound principles expounded in both the essential and theoretical teachings reach their highest point in this chapter. The great teacher Jikaku comments that in this chapter, the living beings of the 10 worlds set their minds on enlightenment and carry out the practices. In other words, this is the trigger that makes you start to be motivated towards not thinking shallowly, but to think more profoundly about yourself and everything involved in life and death. Generally speaking, the introduction chapter, chapter 1, and this chapter represent the two phenomena of birth and death. The introduction chapter, the first chapter, stands for the births of all of us who are living beings, while this chapter stands for the deaths of all living beings. We emerge from non-substantiality into a state of temporary existence, the realm of the 5 components, and we exit and depart into non-substantiality from temporary existence at the end of our lives. But we don't really ever go away. We were not born from nothing, and we don't die into nothing. We were born from something, and we die into something. It's called the state of non-substantiality. The birth and death in a single moment of life, and birth and death in a single moment of life, is called Myoho Renge Kyo. So it's all Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Within each individual chapter, moreover, the title of the chapter represents the phase of birth, while the conclusion of the chapter represents the phase of death. Thus, the Lotus Sutra represents the continuing cycle of birth and death, and that's the truth of the middle way. All right, because there is birth, the sutra begins with the words Nyoze Gaman. This is what I heard, chapter 1. The first word, nyo, has the meaning of birth. And because there is death, the sutra concludes with the words sarai niko. They bowed in obeisance and departed, from chapter 28, from this chapter in the Lotus Sutra. The last word ko, or departed, has the meaning of death. But again, it's not extinction. It's just transmigrating from, a temporary existence of the temporary gathering of the 5 components back into the realm from which we all start, which is non-substantiality. And the word sarai, or sarai, I think it's better sarai, or bowed in obeisance, represents the actions of us living beings in the interval between birth and death. Okay? These actions are actions of Myoho Renge Kyo. That's what allowed us to manifest in the first place. We're all, in essence, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. And when we attain Buddhahood, we all become Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, thus come once. The word rai, or obedience, means that which is not disordered. The Dharma realm is the wonderful law, and hence it is not disordered. Okay? The phenomenal realm is very disordered. The Dharma realm, which is the actual reality of the phenomenal realm, is not disordered at all. It's all causal. Everything is a reflection of karma. Everything is a reflection of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. The reason the phenomenal world seems disordered is because the connection of the original state is not the starting point for how you perceive it. When you enter the Dharma realm, you perceive everything from the original state, and it's very ordered. It's all representative of karma. Karma and the inseparability of the person and the persons, and the inseparability of the person and persons with the environment, the 3 realms. The great teacher Tentai states, in the profound meaning of the Lotus Sutra, it's also dependent origination. We show up with the people we already have the karmic relationships with. The profound meaning of the Lotus Sutra, Volume 1, Tentai states, The character tai, body or substance, can be glossed as rai, about, or obeisance. To do obeisance is to act in accord with the law. It's to respect the truth of the original state and to propagate it to others and to stand up for it as being the supreme teaching. That is, each person, and by that original state, I'm talking about Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. I'm not talking about the 28th chapter Lotus Sutra. That is, each person treats his or her parents as parents, and each person treats his or her children as children. And the substance of the law in the practice of Buddhism is the same as this. In other words, we have mentors, we have teachers, we have people that we pass the teaching on from our mentors and teachers to them. And so in any moment, there are functions in our environment that are our parents and functions in our environment that are our children. And the substance of the law and the practice of Buddhism is the same as this, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. We gain it from another source of superior wisdom, and we pass it on to those who have yet to been able to express that superior wisdom. In this quotation, the word tai, or substance, refers to Myoho Renge Kyo. We never let it cease to exist. We don't keep it to ourselves and not share it. The whole idea is the only reason we learn it is in order to share it in reality. Okay? And the great fortune that's created from that action is what we call benefit and happiness in this world. All right? In this quotation, the word tai, or substance, refers to Myoho Renge Kyo. Thus, the great teacher Tentai commented on the profound meaning of the word tai, or substance. Tai also refers to the different entities that make up the 10 worlds, but that are in effect entities of Myoho Renge Kyo. So the different entities appear different, but in essence and reality, they are all entities of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Everything is an entity of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. That's why the substance is the substance. The substance is the original state. This is the substance of the Lotus Sutra. And he explains that one bows in obeisance to this substance and departs for the true aspect of reality, non-substantiality, the thing, the reality from which everything emerges in every lifetime. The environment emerges from non-substantiality. Everything goes through the cycle of birth, death, old age, sickness, and birth, old age, sickness, and death. Okay, so the point is that the entire phenomenal realm, all the planets go through that, all the stars go through that, everything is created through that process of birth and death. There would be no ability for anything to manifest in the absence of the reality of birth and death. Okay? Because everything would just be forever, and there would never be a process by which something new occurred. Okay, with the inventory of life actually is stored in non-substantiality. The temporary gathering of the 5 components all dissipate and go where they're supposed to go, a separate non-substantial, not fragments, but representative influences. Okay, so again, I'll say this. This is the substance of the Lotus Sutra, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, and explains that one bows in obeisance to this substance. You bow in obeisance to Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Why? Because it's the original state of everything. It's the essence of everything, and departs for the true aspect of reality, the place where the non-substantiality, and hopefully the 9th consciousness that we abide in between lifetimes as entities. Of the 1,000 grasses and 10,000 trees that make up the Dharma realm, the realm of hell dwellers, the realm of hungry spirits, or any of the other realms of the 10 worlds. And he says it that way in order to include the things that are always usually excluded. You know, bad, good's better, bad's worse. No, there are two sides to the same coin. There is none that does not do obeisance to the true aspect of all phenomena, because Nam-myoho Renge Kyo is the basis of all of it. Good, evil, it doesn't matter. There is no differentiation. This is symbolized in the Bodhisattva Universal Worthy, okay, representing the spectrum of the Dharma realm. The word universal refers to the Dharma realm, while the word worthy refers to the fact that all bow in obeisance and depart. Everything goes through this transmigration process. Even the planets and the suns and the stars and everything. Everything does. The plants, the animals, everything. This is none other than Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, the original state, Kuan, the original state that actually all of this is in essence a manifestation of. Hence, it is that each chapter of the sutra begins with the 5 characters of Myoho Renge Kyo, Myoho Renge Kyo Hoben Pandai Ni, Myoho Renge Kyo Norai Jiryo Han. Those are essentially what he's talking about. Each chapter, hence it is that each chapter of the sutra begins with the 5 characters Myoho Renge Kyo in the title of the chapter, and the sutra concludes with these 5 characters, and the beginning, the end, and what comes in between are all the 7 characters of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Okay, so it begins with Myoho Renge Kyo, the mystic law of the simultaneity of cause and effect, as a point of reference for the beginning. But in reality, the clarification that Daishonin is making is that it's all Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Okay, the essential nature, are you following me? The essential nature that is to be propagated in the latter day of the law, the essential nature is Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, is contained in the above paragraph. What I just said, how I just explained that it's all Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, the essential nature of the entire sutra is contained within that paragraph. Okay? Birth, old age, sickness, and death is the beginning of a new state of life in non-substantiality, and you'll come back into temporary existence as a temporary gathering of the 5 components, and once again experience birth, old age, sickness, and death. And this is the basis of life throughout the phenomenal realm, throughout the Dharma realm. Okay, the essential nature that is to be propagated in the latter day of the law is contained in the above paragraph, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Anyone who fails to understand this fact and tries to propagate Buddhism in the latter day without incorporating Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, while leaving out this essential law, will not only be found wanting, but will in addition be going against the true intention of Nichiren. Okay, so the Daishonin is giving you a warning. If you ever try to propagate Buddhism without being inclusive of the essential nature of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo in that explanation, because we're now in the latter day and the great pure law has been revealed, you will be screwing yourself karmically. Don't even go there, and you will not be able to be able to accomplish not only your own Buddhahood, you will not be able to create a means by which others will attain Buddhahood themselves either. In fact, there will be suffering as a result of that karmically. Nichiren's disciples and lay followers will not benefit by having any special talent or understanding other than this. So that's why, again, the people of a superior capacity, the people of intermediate capacity, the people of lower capacity are all 100% equal, because it's all about Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. None of us are better than one another. None of us are more special than one another. We're not going to have any special talent or understanding that exceeds or makes us greater than others. That's the whole point. If you know, then you share. If you don't know, then you learn. It's very simple, and everything is equal. This is the grand equality of the Buddha nature. The great teacher Myolo, in his commentary on the words and phrases, on the words and phrases is Myolo. Volume 9 says, the children propagate the law of the Father, and this benefits the world. The children are the bodhisattvas of the earth, and the father is Shakyamuni Buddha, and the world is the country of Japan. And don't forget, our Buddha nature is the mind, and the mind is Shakyamuni Buddha, and the word is the country, and the world is the country of Japan. To benefit here means to lead others to the attainment of Buddhahood, not to give them food or not to give them a job or not to tell them a great story to help them feel better about the sufferings they're experiencing. You're supposed to attain Buddhahood yourself and then lead others to the attainment of Buddhahood. That's the whole deal. That's what you're supposed to do. That's the highest reflection of attainment. And the law is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Let me say that again. To benefit here means the children propagate the law of the Father, and this benefits the world. The children are the bodhisattvas of the earth. The father is Shakyamuni Buddha, and the world is the country of Japan. To benefit here means to lead others to the attainment of Buddhahood. You can't do that unless you've attained Buddhahood. And the law is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, the only law that leads to Buddhahood. Or again, we may say it like this, because he's making this as the final statement of the orally transmitted teachings. Or again, we may look at it like this. The father is Nichiren. The children are Nichiren's disciples and lay believers, and the world is the country of Japan. To benefit this means to lead others to accept and uphold the law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and to attain Buddhahood in their present form. And the law is the daimoku that is transmitted by the Bodhisattva superior practices. The record of the orally transmitted teachings, part 2, ends here. The first day of the first month of the first year of Koan era cyclical sign, Tsu Chi no E Torah, page 243, and we're done with the second reading of the orally transmitted teachings. Thank you so much for all the time you spent listening to this, and I hope you'll read it and follow it, watch the videos until you master it, and you yourself become a Buddha in your present form. Thank you very much.